On this episode of Common Mystics, we scramble for a story in Arkansas. Did we find one? You decide. I'm Jennifer James.
It's rude. I'm Jill Stanley.
We're psychics.
We're sisters.
We are common mystics. We find extraordinary stories, usually in ordinary places. But today's story takes us to Arkadelphia, Arkansas.
I am so offended because I believe in this story.
Do you?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, thank you for doing the research. I hear that it was a bit harrowing.
It was a clusterfuck. It was like I just kept going in circles and circles and circles until I pulled myself out of the rabbit hole and was like, you know what? This is the story.
Okay.
Why are you making it more complicated?
All right. Well, let's get right to it, shall we?
I think we shall.
Remind the people what our intention is.
Our intention, as it is always, and I don't know why I'm saying this because you always say this, is to find a verifiable story previously unknown to us that give voice to the voiceless.
I think it's only fair that you have to do that sometimes.
I think we have a good thing going, and I don't think we should change it.
All right. Okay. We were in Arkadelphia, Arkansas.
Yes.
Okay.
We were driving from your house to Dallas, and we stopped in Arkadelphia. It's a fun name.
Yeah, kind of. It has about 10,000 people. So it's not a small town, not a big town.
It's medium.
But we were drawn to a specific location, and that was the university.
True. And we get out of the car and we're walking around the university. And what were some of the hits that we were picking up on? First, let me tell you, I was picking up on entitlement, money being thrown around. What about you?
I was getting family connections, but from generation to generation kind of thing.
I was feeling a church vibe. Like there was a church connection, some kind of organized worshiping connection revolving around this university.
I got the name John.
Which, you know what? Names are really hard. And I know like John is like a John, and I'm sure you meant John is like a name and not a toilet. But I'm telling you, that's impressive.
Really?
Yeah, no, I really do think so. That's really impressive.
Thank you.
Tell us about your phone, Jennifer. What was happening with your phone?
Oh my God. My phone just started to have a life of its own and was just like showing me memories, and it would not let me stop it. I had to like reboot my phone. It just had a mind of its own, and it was doing, you know how they make those little videos
Yeah,
for
I love
you with
them.
music? Yeah,
I
but
love them.
I don't like when they randomly hijack my phone, and that's what happened. So and when that happens, when we're together, it's usually because there's some kind of spirit or energy in the place where we're at.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I also felt like it was a hit that led me to this story.
Really?
But whatevs.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay, you'll tell me why later, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I was
okay.
saving it for the end.
Okay.
It also felt like the university was central. Like the town was built around the university. It felt like it was like the heart of the community. So we were walking on 10th and Henderson, and we walk past this beautiful Queen Anne mansion. Tell me what you were picking up as we were walking the grounds.
It felt hospitable at the same time that it felt like spiritually charged. It was like, come on in kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean because
Yeah.
I was there. But no, we wanted to stay. And not only that, we were looking at this house from every angle.
Yeah.
We just couldn't get enough of it.
Right,
We
we
were
kept
like
walking around it. Yep.
Yes. We got on the porch. We were making ourselves at home.
We tried the
And there was-
doors. They were locked.
Always try the doors. You may surprise yourself. Okay, and then there were these crows that, like, when we started walking away, the crows were like, caw, caw, caw,
Yeah.
caw, caw, caw. So we would turn around and be like, what the fuck, crow? What are you trying to tell me?
Right.
And we would go back to the house and circle it again.
Right. The crows were calling us back to the house. They're like, wait, you didn't get everything. You didn't get everything. You didn't see everything.
And as a matter of fact, on one of those circle backs, what did we find?
The craziest thing. So there's a mansion, and then a few feet away on like the grassy lawn, there are, wasn't it 2 random stones?
I only had pictures of one. I was going to ask you if you had pictures of the other one, but I thought there was two, but I only had the one picture, but go on.
Okay, so random stone that looked like it would have been a gravestone. You know what I mean? Like the flat ones flushed with the ground. And it said, the stone that we took a picture of said, Dr. J.H. Bell Office. So random, because we were at a mansion at a university, and here's this stone flush with the ground that looks like a gravestone, Dr. J.H. Bell Office. Bizarre.
Absolutely bizarre. It left a lot of questions.
Yes, it did.
So we get back in the car. You and I we drive around town. We end up at this like old like railroad station museum, and it's a classic Jen and Jill mess around. We're like hanging off the cars of the old train cars, and we're like having fun. And it turns out that those train cars and that train station is also relevant to the university and that house. So it's,
Shut your mouth right now.
No, I'm serious. Every time I did the research, it kept taking me back to that house.
Damn it.
Back to that university.
Okay.
So it was very bizarre. Just the same way the crows were.
Yeah, for real.
So give me a little history of this town, Arkadelphia, because I mastered how to say this name, and I'm very proud of myself. Arkadelphia.
Oh, that's the one?
Arkadelphia.
Because I was going to ask you about Ouachita. Did you look that one up?
That is the name of a different college in the town. And it's a river and mountains or something, and I cannot say that.
Okay, I looked it up, and I'm prepared, so you don't have to worry.
Thank you so much. That's why we work. That's why we work.
Arkadelphia.
Okay.
You want me to tell you about it?
I'm waiting.
All right. It's a charming little town, has a vibrant history. It is in Clark County, Arkansas. It serves as the county seat, and it is really a picturesque setting. It's a pretty little place. It is located in the foothills of the Ouachita Mountains along the banks of the Ouachita River.
I'm very impressed.
Thank you. I was waiting for some reinforcement there because I did study that name before we started. It was incorporated in 1857, and its roots trace back to 1809 when this guy established a salt works nearby, and salt works was like the original industry of all of Arkansas. So that was really important. And originally the town was named Blakelytown. And then in 1839, they changed it to Arkadelphia, Ark for Arkansas, Adelphia from the Greek word meaning brotherly place. And there you have it. Personally,
And this
I think they should have kept Blakelytown.
Blakelytown?
Yeah, I think so.
Arkadelphia. I mean, both of them to me are not good.
Well, but Arkadelphia sounds like you're trying to be Philadelphia.
Arkadelphia really was messing with my mind and my dyslexia.
Yeah,
like I was
I
like,
can see that.
Arkansas. I was like, what is happening?
I can see
and
that.
so, yeah, 100%. Like I'm like, what's the name of this bullshit? And you're like, Arkadelphia. So I'm glad I mastered it. This quaint little town is home to two esteemed universities, Henderson State University and the Ouachita.
No.
Ouachita.
Ouachita.
Ouachita
Right.
Baptist University.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, in researching
Yes.
this town,
Yes.
Arkadelphia, it kept bringing me back to the Henderson University. So, I was like, okay, so I'm going to research Henderson University first.
Right. Because the research is intuitive.
The research is
And
intuitive.
as you start researching something, you see breadcrumbs leading you back to the same place. Just like the crows.
Exactly. Back to the university we go.
All right. So should we talk about Henderson State University?
I think we would be amiss if we do not.
It is currently a public university. It started out as a college called Arkadelphia Methodist College.
When did that start?
It all started back when city leaders and members of the Methodist Episcopal Church in town, they wanted to bring a college called Hendrix College to Arkadelphia, but they couldn't, so they started their own, and they called it Arkadelphia Methodist College. And it opens its doors in 1890.
Yeah, they were all salty. They would be like, you don't want your college here? We're going to make our own college here.
Right.
Right?
It's interesting that it is Only university in Arkansas that's been run by both the church and the state, because city leaders and the Methodists were running it. It's interesting.
That is pretty cool. That is notable. I don't know how cool it is, but it is notable. Like, that's not something you see all the time.
No, that's an interesting history there.
Yeah.
And
agree.
it's also the only public university named after a person, and that person, Charles Christopher Henderson, a trustee and a notable businessman in Arkadelphia. And it was named for him in 1904.
And this university, just side notes, hook us up on the detours, look us up, because we're going to tell you all the tea with the ghost hauntings around town. This university is legit haunted.
Which we knew,
for sure.
because my phone was freaking out and you could just tell.
Yeah, you can just, like, standing there, you know you're in, like,
Right.
literally.
Right.
Like, it's like reading the Babadook book. It's like, nothing good is going to happen.
No, it's a nice place, I'm sure.
It's a nice place, but you know it's haunted.
It's haunted.
You know
for
what
sure.
I'm saying? Like, it's definitely haunted. Like, there are ghosts trying to reach out to us. Okay. So I looked at the history of Henderson College. Not a lot going on there. So, again, I'm like, okay, so maybe it's the Charles Henderson house, because the crows were leading us back there. So what can you tell me about Charles Henderson and his house?
Right. Because we were looking, or I should say you did this work. You were looking for, like, was there a tragedy? Was there a murder? What went down there? And there's nothing. It's like all squeaky clean, interesting, but squeaky clean. And so let's try this guy. Right?
Well, the thing is that our hits were like affluent, family, generational. Like, it wasn't necessarily like, I'm expecting something to come up, like something notable, something like big,
something interesting to talk about as on a podcast.
Jennifer, I find this interesting.
Okay, so you looked into Charles Christopher Henderson, the guy who the whole university is named after. That makes sense.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Maybe the university is just a breadcrumb to lead us to him.
And that dude's house kept calling us back there.
That's true. And the crows were like, caw, caw,
and the crow
go there.
Caw, 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 caw.
Exactly.
And I'm like,
right.
okay. So I ain't dumb.
All right.
So I'm like, okay,
so
Charles Henderson.
So maybe this guy has some skeletons in his closet. Some tragedy.
I'm hoping.
Something.
Something. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, for real. Like, dead something, murdered something, like had an extra affair on the side. Give me something juicy.
All right. Well, he was born in 1850 in Scott County, Arkansas, and he moved around a lot as a kid. There were 8 kids in the family. His dad died when he was only in childhood. Oh, he was 14 and his dad died. That's sad.
And it was natural. It was natural causes. Yeah. It wasn't anything salacious.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for checking. Then around 1870, there's this whole thing where, like, inexplicably, they start calling him captain. And I looked up what a captain is, and it's a military title. It's like a high-ranking military title.
But he's not a high-ranking military
he wasn't
person.
in the military. He worked for a livestock company in St. Louis, Missouri, and he got married, and then he got into industry, cotton industry, dairy, timber, railroads, and then he was a president of a bank. Whenever someone from, like, the late 1800s, early 1900s is president of a bank, that's like, you're
a big
rich.
deal.
Yeah, like, you made it.
That's a big deal. The only scandal I can see in his life is that his son was just like a teller at one of his banks.
Big deal. People do that all the time.
I mean,
you
I'm
hire
just
your
saying,
kids if you can.
No, I'm saying, like, not vice president, like dudes the
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. My point is that, like, he wasn't the vice president of a bank. He didn't have his own branch. He was just a teller. Like, why not make him like a janitor?
Oh, you mean he should have given his son a smaller role in the bank if he was going to hire
a bigger role?
A bigger role.
A bigger role.
Okay.
I mean, if we're going to do nepitude, let's do nepitude.
Nepotism?
Nepotism.
Okay. I don't know what nepitude is. It sounds dirty.
No, I think it's a tense of nepotism.
All right, we're going to look that up later.
A nepitude baby? You never heard of that?
No, I haven't. I mean, you could be right. Odds are against it.
I could be making things up, too.
We'll
never know. We'll never know.
It's probably more likely. Henderson was super involved in the Methodist Church, and remember how I was telling you about how the Methodists, like, built this university? He raised funds to help it out. Am I making that up?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay, very good. I'm glad I am. In 1892, then, he bought this land right across from the Methodist College, now, of course, known as Henderson State University. And so he was like living right by it. And originally the house was a small cottage, but when he started to do really well for himself and like went from being, like a worker at a livestock company to the president of a bank, they started to build a bigger home. And eventually he decided to build a bigger home on the north side of the city directly across from the college. How do you like that? This guy really likes this college.
The guy is like obsessed with this college.
He is obsessed.
Like legit obsessed
So
with
he
this
gets
college.
on the college board of trustees and he's like the president of the board. And he serves for 10 years and he makes big donations. He's basically the sugar daddy for this university is what
You're not wrong.
He is 100% the sugar daddy. In 1901, apparently the school had a lot of debts and he gave them $11,000 in 1901. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money today. In 1901,
That's a lot of money today.
That's a buttload of money in 1901.
True dat.
And then he kept making these big donations.
Like every time whenever the college would get into some kind of financial distress or whatever, he was just like, here you go, here's more money. You're like, dude.
Apparently there was some kind of legal claim against it, and he paid over $5,000 to resolve the claim. And then there were other debts, and he paid over $10,000 to dig it out of trouble then. And then when there was a fire in 1914, he gave it $5,000 to help with rebuilding. It's just like, wouldn't you start asking questions after a while?
Yeah, my question would be like, okay, if this, who is managing this that it's not making any money? Like, what are we doing wrong here? But it's also, like, I would be pissed if my husband, like, had a pet college that he was just throwing money at. I would be like, hi,
Right. Not only that, but he's kind of setting it up like if you wanted to embezzle from the college, this guy's making it really easy. Like if you were crooked.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. Absolutely right.
So I think he should have asked more questions instead of just throwing money at it. But, I don't know. I don't know the ways of the rich people.
Yeah, well, and I don't know how, like, the bureaucracy about how to spend money, like, on a board. Like, it seems like there would be, like, intelligent people that, like, know something about money. Like, I don't know, a president of a bank would be making decisions about this college. You know what I'm saying? And where is all this money going? I say that in respects to all the earlier debt, but the fire, I understand, like, you have a
fires
fire.
happen.
Yeah.
Fires
happen.
Sure.
Okay. But he seems like a well-respected, good old guy.
He does. He does.
So,
and this college was eventually named after him. In 1975, it was officially turned into Henderson State University.
Okay. So tell me about that big ass house, because there has to be something about that big ass house.
Something to talk about on this episode.
Something has to come up. Something.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the Captain Henderson House, even though he wasn't a captain, in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, has a rich history in terms of its construction, its owners, and how it's been used over the years. It began, like I said, as a little cottage back in 1876. In 1906, it got a big makeover, and they called it the Big House, and then it was expanded in the 1920s, and today it's kind of a mishmash of styles. It's a Queen Anne style with some craftsmen thrown in and neoclassical touches. Henderson bought a lot of different lots near where the current Henderson State University is, and he sold the house in 1911 when he moved to Texas. It was owned by another family who turned it into a museum, and then after a time, it became a bed and breakfast, but that bed and breakfast had to close in 2020 due to COVID. Today, it's an inn and an event venue. Other than that, there's really nothing to tell.
Yeah, true that. I would say what they're missing out is not leaning into the hauntings in this location.
For sure.
Like, if I owned that house, I would be like, this is haunted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, seance day. Like, every day is Halloween at that house.
Yeah, we should reach out.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, college, let us suggest this is how to revitalize that house.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe we could utilize that location for a future retreat or something. What do you think?
Ooh, I like the way you think. Someone's anxious to get back to Arkadelphia. So, Anyway, long story short, another dead end.
Great outline, Jill.
Yeah. Another dead end. Here, right, bring us back.
All right.
Here we go again.
Okay.
So
Back to the
this has
house,
been my
just
life.
like the crows. Caw, caw.
Yeah.
Let's
Caw,
go back
caw,
to the house.
caw.
What's going on?
So the only thing I can think of at this point is to start researching that weird marker that was on the lawn in the house.
Right.
Obviously, it keeps taking me back to this house, but like the dude, he's not a captain, but that's not really a scandal to me. Like his son was like, was a product of nepotism, but not like in a big way. And the college kind of was losing a lot of money, but he just kept giving the college money. I mean, these are not real scandals.
No.
You know?
Oh, not.
No.
Yeah, no. It's not a story for us, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me about the marker and what it was saying outside the house. One of them said Dr. J.H. Bell's office. The other one said Arkadelphia Sanitarium, I believe. We think
can't
it's on
say
your
I
phone.
believe. We should really know this. You know that, right?
You look on your phone.
It's one that says Dr. J.H. Bell office, and underneath that, sanitarium. So it's all
Okay.
on one.
Got it. Okay. So I started looking and researching the sanitariums.
Right.
Please give me a little history of sanitariums in the United States.
Sanitariums in the late 19th century were places for treatment and healing, particularly if people were suffering from tuberculosis. At that time, tuberculosis was a major cause of death in the country. And people also didn't understand, like, how you got it, you know what I mean? Or how to really treat it. So it was basically like they put you in this kind of resort setting. It was beautiful. It was idyllic. It was rural. And the idea was just get fresh air, get lots of rest, and eat a nutritious diet. It was basically a fat farm for the thin and dying. Yeah. But then after the understanding about tuberculosis grew and medical advancements were made, doctors and the medical community started going away from sanitariums in the 20th century in favor of more advanced healthcare facilities. Yeah.
So why were the sanitariums only created to serve people with TB?
Well,
Or tuberculosis.
They weren't. There are other types of treatments that you can get from a sanitarium, such as, like, if you were an alcoholic, it was treatment from whiskey and opium. So,
It
It was
it's like the
also-
original Betty Ford clinic.
yeah, a rehab facility as well. So it wasn't just TB, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So I Googled, because this is my heavy research. I was like, give me the history of the Arkadelphia Sanitarium. Okay.
Okay, what happened when you did that?
Not like I couldn't find anything.
Nothing came up.
So nothing came up. It was giving me this sanitarium in Little Rock. It was giving me this Hot Springs sanitarium, but it was giving me nothing in Arkadelphia. So I'm like, okay. So then I started researching J.H. Bell.
The doctor whose name was right above the word sanitarium.
Now you have to understand. That's all I had.
Right.
Was
Yeah, no, we
J.H.
don't have a
Bell.
story at
Yeah,
all.
I don't have date of birth. I don't have his first name. I don't have any of that. That's all I have.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I have to contact the Clark County Historical Society, and I asked them about Arkadelphia Sanitarium and like who the Bell is. And so there was a doctor. How do you say it? Spear?
Lisa Spear, PhD.
Yep. She's the University of what's that word?
Washita.
Washita Baptist University. And she responded,
The Arkadelphia Sanitarium served the county as a medical facility and hospital for the first half of the 20th century. Established as the Bell Sanitarium on Main Street by Dr. J.H. Bell, the practice transferred hands after Bell left for service in the U.S. Army Medical Corps in 1916. From 1916 to 1924, the practice operated as the Rowland and Doane or the Arkadelphia Sanitarium, although local newspapers continued to refer to it as the Bell Sanitarium. Doctors Noble R. Townsend and W. T. Rowland, Samuel P. Doane, and their successors treated patients with a variety of injuries and ailments, many of which were reported in the weekly newspaper. After the partnership was dissolved, Townsend and Doane continued to practice in an office above Thomas Drug Store. Townsend died in 1937 and Doane in 1954. Well, that's interesting.
Okay, that is interesting.
What's your takeaway from that?
From this information?
Yeah, from Dr. Spear.
Well, what I think is that it was notable, the sanitarium.
Mm-hmm. And it was in Arkadelphia.
And it was in Arkadelphia. And it served the community. But it was, if you Google, like, Arkadelphia Sanitarium, nothing's coming up. Mm-hmm. So although it was a notable part of the community back in the day, it's kind of overlooked today.
I see.
It's not on any of, like, the historical websites, not from the Historical Society, not from the college, not from the county website. That's all not in there.
All right, so what did you do?
So I had to reach back out to her, and I was like, okay, there are stones at the Henderson house referring to... Well, let me just read to you what I put to her.
Okay.
This is me. I'm going to do me. Okay?
You do you.
I'm going to do me. Hello, I'm sorry to bother you again, but I have a few more questions. We were visiting Arkadelphia. We found signs from the sanitarium at the Henderson house. It looks like 705 Main Street was the location of the sanitarium. Do you know why these monuments or stones would be on the property of Captain Henderson's house?
Well, unfortunately, that is a question I am not able to answer. Captain Henderson built the house, and there is no mention of Bell as a subsequent owner. The house did serve at one time as a museum, so perhaps the stones were placed there during the house's time as a museum. Local property records do show Dr. Bell as purchasing land in Henderson's addition, but not this house. So I'm not sure why the stones are there. And then she copies someone else who might be able to provide additional information. His name is Ken Engel. Or Angel.
What does he do for a living?
He works at the archives at Henderson State University, Jill.
And he might be able to provide additional information that she does not have.
That is correct.
So
you reached out to Ken.
Ken responds. She copied him on the email directly.
How nice of Ken to respond.
And can you please read Ken's response?
I've wondered the same thing and have taken those exact pictures! ! I'm going to second the thought about the stones being from the former HSU museum. Unfortunately, our records of the museum inventory are incomplete, so I can't say for sure. I would guess they were either too heavy to move to campus or that people had forgotten the relevance of Dr. Bell to the college. Probably both.
Okay. Hang in there, guys. We'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. We are so excited to unveil the first book in our series entitled Common Mystics Present Ghost on the Road Volume 1, Murders and Mysterious Deaths.
It's everything you love about common mystics and more.
It's a retelling of 10 of our favorite stories from our pod with exciting extras.
Extras like souvenirs, what we took away from the experience, and what to know if you go if you decide to travel in our footsteps.
Pre-order the Kindle edition now. All other formats of the book will be available for purchase at Amazon.com on July 1st, 2023.
Thanks, guys. Now back to the show.
So, Dr. J.H. Bell, you found him, finally, is Major John Hastings Bell. Born in 1870 in Clark County, Arkansas, and apparently he was quite a guy.
He was quite a guy.
He was a doctor, of course, a physician by trade, and he lived in Arkadelphia at the corner of 12th and Wilson Streets.
So, during a time in American history when some physicians were charging exorbitant amounts of money and making incredible wealth, so much so that, like, a Southern Standard article that is the newspaper out of Arkadelphia, from 1890, marked that some physicians in 1890 were making over $60,000 and even over $100,000 a year.
Okay.
So during that time when Dr. Bell was practicing, he made an honest name for himself. He wasn't charging those rates. He was
not making that kind of money.
No, he was just doing a good deed. He was like all good for the community.
Damn.
He was also
They published everything in the paper back then, by the way.
They really do.
They're publishing like who was sick and with what, and what the doctor's salaries were. That's some
Yeah, who was
bullshit.
sick with? Well, the Southern Standard article was actually like an expose, like digging deep into like the scandals of how much doctors were making.
But Dr. Bell came out clean.
They didn't address Dr. Bell specifically. They didn't address any local doctors in Arkadelphia. They cited doctors from elsewhere.
Oh, of course they did.
Yeah.
Chickens.
But Dr. Bell, he was a trustee at Henderson Brown College, now called Henderson University. And at one point, he even opened up his home for male students to doormat.
Weird.
So it was like weird, but cool, right?
Sounds a little Michael Jackson-y.
Oh my gosh.
Just a
Jennifer.
little.
There's nothing Michael Jackson-y
Did he
about
have a
this.
monkey?
He was a good man.
Did he have a monkey called Bubbles? Did he
In
have a
1880
carnival in his backyard?
He did not.
He did not. Are you sure?
No.
That
I'm
did not
positive.
come up in your research?
That did
All
not.
right. Then he's
Bubbles? No.
Probably legit. Keep
Hard
going.
pass. Hard pass on Carnival.
Okay.
He did have exam rooms, a lot of beds.
Okay.
It's a sanitarium.
That could go either way.
In 1884, he found himself involved in a pretty dramatic case when he helped the police investigate a woman's death.
Okay.
So, like, he was called to the Scott family home, and Mrs. Scott was, like, on the floor, and she was, like, seriously dead. And he was like, Mr. Scott, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I found her like that. And he's like, okay, wait here. He goes to the police and he's like, you guys, like a couple weeks ago, I gave Mr. Scott a prescription for arsenic and he said he was going to kill rats with it, but now his wife's dead and I think I should do an autopsy to make sure that it wasn't arsenic that killed her.
Was it?
And that's what happened. It was. It
Oh,
was.
Mr. Scott.
Mr. Scott.
So maybe we should give voice to Mrs. Scott.
R.I.P. Mrs. Scott. I'm very sorry. That sucks.
Dr. Bell was also a family man.
He was. He married Maggie Key, one of the daughters of the fellow trustees at RBF Key in 1890 something. They had a little girl named Alice, but sadly Alice passed away
Great
in
research.
1902. Okay. That's not funny. I'm laughing at okay.
No, you're
On my
right.
outline,
Jill,
on
can
my- I
you
just-
can you explain what RBF key is?
Yes.
Okay. You know what? Nobody cares. Let's keep going.
I can.
No,
I can
no,
also
it's
explain
really
that
not-
they
not-
were married in 1890 something, and the last digit of the year is out. I didn't
Yeah.
finish the date, so that's
Okay.
why we're laughing, not at the little girl's sudden demise.
Oh.
She passed away in 1902.
No, that's very
the
serious.
same year. Yes, that's why I was trying to explain to people why we were laughing. So that same year, they welcomed a baby boy, a bouncing baby boy named William Benjamin, who they called Benjamin or Ben.
Okay,
Now-
but to the important parts of his life,
Dr.
Dr. Bell traveled the country.
Go.
He traveled the
did.
country. He sharpened his medical skills. He was really
Uh-huh.
he was really serious about being a good doctor, not just making a lot of money.
And he traveled to also help sick people. So it wasn't like he was just like people liked him. They trusted him, and he was like kind of on call.
And
He also owned several commercial buildings that he rented out to local entrepreneurs.
nice.
Yeah.
He helped people get fitted for eyeglasses.
And he was a well-respected member of the community. Now, in August 1916, Uncle Sam came a-callin'. Jennifer, what happened?
I guess he was drafted. Was he drafted, Jill? Or did he
Yeah.
join
He's
on his own accord?
Pretty sure he was drafted.
You have no idea, do you? Don't
No,
lie
he
to
was-
our
he was-
listeners.
no, I know exactly what happened. He was on the reserve list and his number came up.
Okay.
So he was drafted.
Because he was already older. 1916, we were in the middle of World War I.
He was in his 40s.
He was in his 40s. And Dr. Bell left for Fort Sam Houston to serve in the Medical Corps for the Southern Border Department of the U.S. Army. And also his son enlisted.
True. So,
What happened, Jill? How did that end?
you tell me, Jennifer.
Well, tragically, while serving, Dr. J.H. Bell passed away at Fort Sill in Oklahoma. His obituary said that he died after battling erysipelas and throat issues.
I don't know what erysipelas is.
I looked it
I'm
up.
hoping you do.
Yeah.
I knew you would. See, that's why.
That's why you can cut corners on the information.
Jennifer Fye, this outline right now.
Erysipelas is I might be saying it wrong. Erysipelas is a bacterial infection of the skin. It's a form of cellulitis. And back in the day before we had antibiotics, it could be a real problem because, that bacteria gets into the skin and then it can cause serious health issues, including sepsis, where that bacteria is like that infection is coursing through your body. So he died of that as well as, throat issues, which might have been related.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? He enlisted as a lieutenant when he entered in the Army or the U.S.
Yeah, Army.
Yeah. So.
And he was promoted to major.
Yeah, right before he died.
Yeah. He was only 48. He left behind his wife and his child, Benjamin, his mother, his brother, 2 sisters.
His remains were brought back to Arkadelphia, accompanied by his wife, Mrs. Bell, and Roy Doug. I don't know who Roy Doug is, but they rushed to Fort Sill when they heard that Dr. Bell was seriously ill, and they got there in time and was able to bring Dr. Bell, at least his body back.
And he was laid to rest in Okolona. I assume that's Arkansas, but we'll never
His hometown,
know.
about 26 miles away. I know, Jennifer.
Okay.
His hometown. That's where he's from originally.
So you think Dr. Bell is the voiceless?
I do.
Okay, tell me why.
Why are you so mean to me?
I'm not mean.
I do all this research and I put this together and you're just mean. Okay, because it seems like his legacy... See, now I'm Cindy Bradying it because you got me all flustered. It seems like his legacy was overlooked both figuratively and literally. How many times did we walk around the Henderson house overlooking that stone and not knowing it was there?
Not only
Also-
that, though, when you called the experts, they had no idea either. They're like, yeah, no, we don't know.
Yeah, not only that, but they're like, I thought the same thing. And you're like, what?
But don't you work there?
Yeah, like, aren't you like, shouldn't you be like,
No, but they were really helpful.
know.
We shouldn't be dissing
They
them.
were
They
really
were
helpful.
wonderful.
they
Take 2.
were wonderful.
They were very helpful.
They were very helpful, and they shed light, and they brought light to this story, even though you think it's a non-story, but I think it's a story. Okay.
Prove it.
This is the thing. In his day, there was little regulations for healthcare, and there was no health insurance. And remember, in his day, his contemporaries around the country were making money
Well,
at
they were
this shit.
charging a lot more, is what you said earlier.
Their annual income was over 60 and sometimes over $100,000. Okay, so yeah.
I mean, doctors
Now,
make a
also-
lot now, too, though.
But I mean, we're talking about the early 1900s, Jennifer.
Yeah,
to make
I know.
$100,000 in the early 1900s.
I'll look
like,
it
what
up.
are we?
Yeah, I'll look it
Are we
up.
Rockefellers? What are we doing here? Are we Carnegies? What's happening?
Keep going.
Okay, so not only that, but doctors face competition from other physicians,
Oh,
pharmacists,
yeah.
and dispensaries.
Because it was a business. It was like their
It
business.
was a business, exactly. So another thing is one of his contemporaries and competitor who is notable, who is currently in publications on historical timelines and in historical archives that you can like Google his name and shit comes up. He was under investigation for using the profession to get favors from the wealthy in exchange for treatment and overcharging prescriptions by the Arkansas Medical Association. That doctor is still celebrated today. And I am not going to bring up his name because it's not about like a Kate Meghan situation. This is just about like, this is what was happening, this kind of shenanigans that was going around, not only around the country, but in Arkadelphia at the time. And that is not who John Hastings Bell was. Not only that, but this is totally annoying that the doctor, who again shall remain nameless, also was shamelessly getting attention to himself and his profession and his business by getting himself written about in the local papers for like anything. If someone died of something, he would be like, I have an opinion on that death. It's like, dude, no one's talking to you. And he did this by way of getting himself advertisements.
Publicity.
Yes. The reason why that's a problem, again, you're competing in this area, but it's against the oath of the medical code in 1847. So dude was doing shit that he shouldn't have been doing
That's shady.
to bring that's not our Dr. Bell. That's not what our guy was doing. But this guy lived a long life, didn't go in the army, and is notable across the region.
He's all over the papers. When I was trying to help you with research because you hit a wall and you're like, help me with this. This other doctor who shall remain nameless, we might as well call him Voldemort. All over the papers. All over the papers. But Dr. Bell, nowhere.
Nowhere. It's really hard to find anything. Like, I found like a couple clippings on Dr. Bell, but this guy was obnoxious. He was like obnoxious. Okay, so what does Dr. Bell want us to know, Jennifer? What do you think?
I think that he was a major in the army, and he doesn't think that Henderson should be called a captain.
Wow. Okay. Okay. If you look at the outline.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know the answer was right in front of me.
Under 7, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds like
Thank
a weird
you.
countdown. Sometimes the voiceless is a scandal-free patriot whose life was unfinished, who served his community and country to the very best of his ability. You're lucky I'm editing this as
You
I
are
read it.
so
While
so
others
sweet.
were creating news for themselves or using false titles, Dr. Bell walked the walk and led a good life. So that's why we're talking about him.
And he wants to be remembered and he wants to be known for Cry Eye.
You know, I thought you were full of shit until I saw Ken's reply where he's like, I don't know why that's there. I guess people just forgot that Dr. Bell had a significant history, at the university.
And in town.
And in
Not
town.
only that, but Dr. Spears, in real time, when I was communicating with Ken and Dr. Spears,
Yeah.
she is researching a book. I don't know what the book's about. I didn't ask her. I'm not going to lie. But she was researching a book, and she had a picture of a historical site in Arkadelphia that she did not know what it was. When Ken replied, he sent a picture of the Arkadelphia Sanitarium, a.k.a. the Bell Sanitarium. And it was then that Lisa's like, oh my God, Ken, you inadvertently helped me with my research for my book.
Shut up right
I
now.
Swear to God. Swear to God. She's like, I did not know what this building was, and here it is. And she's like, there you go. Now I know what it was. So Dr. Bell is going to be in her book.
Oh my
And
gosh.
a picture of the sanitarium.
Look what we did. Seriously, we're
See
doing
what
this
we
in real
did?
time. Wow.
I know. Tell me again, it's not a story.
It's not a
Okay.
story, but we
Not
can
only
give him
that,
a voice.
okay.
It's fine.
Not only that, okay, you guys, this is really what happened. So I bring the story to Jennifer, and Jennifer's like, this is not a story. And I'm like, Jennifer, this is a story. And she's like, this isn't a story. I'm like, okay, let me get in my mediumship mode and talk to Dr. Bell and tell him, like, Jennifer is not going to let us do the story unless there's a hook. And right now, there ain't no hook. And so I was meditating, and I was like, come on, Dr. Bell. Come on, Dr. Bell. And Dr. Bell told me to reach out to his living family. Do you know what that means?
Adorable. What does
Adorable?
That mean?
That means I have to stalk. I have to do a family tree.
Yeah.
I have to I have to look and create this ancestor's family tree, living tree today. Then I have to stalk mofos to get someone's number to call them and be like, hi, I'm a psychic. I'm a sister. My name is Jill. Yeah, that's what I did.
Wow.
I found Hank, who is the third great-grandson of Dr. Bell. I called him.
Wow.
It was embarrassing.
As it is.
I'm a sister, as it is. I'm a sister, I'm a psychic, and your third time's great-grandfather wants a voice. And
Wait, what did he say?
He said, well, Miss Jill, he said, why, I am the great-grandson of John Hastings Bell. And then he went through his lineage.
Aw.
And he was kind of surprised that I found him. And he said, I explained to him that I was in contact with the university and that it seems like his third-time great-grandfather is currently being overlooked in history
Ooh.
and in the archives. And I was hoping that Hank would provide maybe a picture or some additional information that we can give to the university library so that they have more information on Dr. Bell. And Hank told me that some of his family members may have some more information, may have a picture, and that he was going to get with them to compile something to present to Ken at the university library.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing, Jill. That really is amazing.
Well, yeah. Then I called him back and he didn't answer. And then I called him back again and he didn't answer.
Please stop calling this man.
Well, so that's...
Next,
so
we're going to get
hopefully-
served with a restraining order.
Hopefully, Ken and Hank can get together and they can have a conversation about Dr. Bell and any archives that the family has that may want to be shared with the university library.
That's
And
cool.
if nothing else, we help Dr. Spear identify the building that she was researching for her book and that Dr. Bell will be in her book.
I love it.
Really? Because you were talking mad shit, bro.
Well, I mean, this is one of our weaker episodes, but let's go over our hits.
This is real world work. This is real world
I'm
work
kidding.
we did
I'm
here.
very, very appreciative for all this work.
You see what I have to deal with, Dr. Bell?
Okay. So, Jill, let's go over our hits real quick, and then I have some questions to ask you.
Okay.
Okay.
We were drawn to the university.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
yeah.
Yeah. That's where Dr. Bell Stone was. And Jill, when you were feeling elitist and money being thrown around, who do you think you were picking up on?
The quote unquote Captain Charles Henderson.
Henderson,
Just
for sure.
Throwing that shit.
When I was picking up on families and generations, I think it's Dr. Bell's current living relatives who,
Exactly.
yeah, who helped you out. Church ties.
No brainer.
Yeah.
Don't even-
I mean,
don't
Henderson and Bell, they were all like Methodists. John. Oh my gosh, his name is John.
His name is John.
His name
And I
is
know there's a
John.
lot of Johns. I understand
I know, it's a
that
very
everyone-
common name.
It's
Probably
a common
the,
name, but
the most common name.
like to be in this loop of shit and then get that breadcrumb like John, like that's how I
Yeah.
knew. I'm like, no, there is a story here. It's not a salacious story.
No.
It's not fantastic,
It's not
but
even
it is
a story, really. It's more of information.
It's
yeah.
a man's unfinished life, and he did good work. Okay, and just because he didn't get scandalous and he wasn't broke and he wasn't
Yeah.
obnoxious in the newspapers, he was overlooked. He did the right thing.
I'm glad that we're giving him a voice, to be honest.
Are
I know
you?
I'm giving you
Good.
shit, but I'm glad that we're giving him a voice because he does seem like he deserves it. And for some reason, usually these little towns are so proud of their history. I don't know what happened.
Right.
Like that nobody remembers this guy. So I'm glad we're putting him back on the local map.
I think it's because he died young. If he would have lived, this is another thing. That's the thing I think when you made a comment about Captain and you're like, he's pissed about Captain, I really think he is.
Yeah, I do
because
too.
I literally think he is that this guy Henderson is like well known, but he wasn't really a captain, and people refer to him as captain.
Right.
He's like, no, motherfucker, I was actually like doing stuff for the army.
Right.
Like it killed me being out there doing it, and here you are in your cushy life. I could have stayed home. I could have made a bunch of money and just did my commercial businesses, but I didn't. I did the right thing.
Okay, speaking of
Just saying.
captains, that comes to my
Yes.
question for you. I'm going to give you two famous captains, and you're going to pick one.
Von Trapp.
I didn't give you the choices yet, and now you just ruined it because that was one of the choices. Are you ready?
Crunch.
Here's your choices. Captain America or Captain Jack Sparrow. Which is your choice?
Jack Sparrow.
Okay. I agree. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Captain Hook or Captain Caveman.
Who's Captain Caveman?
You don't remember Captain Caveman from the
No,
from
but
the
he sounds like a
cartoons?
bear.
Oh my gosh, we have to look it up later. He's crazy.
I think I am getting like he's hairy and doesn't
yes,
he have like
yes,
a little
he's
like
hairy and he has a
Speedo?
big
Does he have a Speedo on? I think he has like Speedo
I don't remember
on,
what
and
he
has,
looks like, but I thought he was really hairy and he held a club and he went, Captain Caveman, and he banged
Yes.
everything. Anyway,
I would
I'm really
do
dating
Captain
myself.
Hook.
Of course.
I have a thing for pirates.
Okay. Last one. Captain Kirk or Captain and Tennille?
Captain and Tennille.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
But
all
my
I got.
favorite captain will always be
Captain
Captain
Crunch.
Crunch,
Yeah.
with the crunch berries.
With crunch berries. Okay.
crunch, yes.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Don't you want to know about your phone? I have 2 theories about your phone going crazy.
Tell me.
I think one is either that Dr. Bell was saying like he doesn't have this, like this reels of memories with his family because his life was cut short, or he was referring to like his family, like when you were like generations and you were like your pictures were going of memories of like
Yeah.
you and I on the road and this and this and this and mom and grandma. That's what I think.
Huh, you might be onto something. I didn't think about it like that. I was just thinking like spirit took my phone over and it was annoying, but yeah, maybe. Even just documenting the fact that I had my life documented on something like my phone, and yet his life is
Exactly.
not documented anywhere.
See, now you're thinking. Not only that, but
Are you proud of me,
again,
Jill? Are you proud of me now?
I feel like you've grown.
Thank you.
I feel like you've grown. But another thing, what's weird is that the train station
Yeah.
that we were at, Henderson was a part of the railroad. Like he was also had money in the railroads. So it's so weird. Like the more I like was researching, like we were at the railroad station, we were here. It was like keep taking me back to that house. But
Yeah.
it wasn't about Henderson. It wasn't about the house. It was about Dr. John Bell.
Which that stone is probably one of the only markers in the whole city that
exactly right.
refer to him. So, okay.
And he's
all right.
literally being overlooked.
All right. Well, I hope somebody found this entertaining.
Well, I enjoyed spending time with you.
Oh, I know. It was nice. Love you. Oh, wait. Should
I
we
love
tell
you.
people where to find us and stuff?
Yeah, well, so on our detours, we're going to be talking about hauntings
Yes.
around Arkadelphia. And
I'm so excited.
yes, and we're going to talk about the scary shit that happened to us at the Rose Hill Cemetery, because that, I'm not lying.
Love it.
That was scary. And some of our Tier 4 patrons, like Sarah and Denise, was live streaming with us
Mm-hmm.
while we were in the cemetery, and they were picking up on stuff too. So it's like this cool, like, it
Love.
was just way cool.
Love,
Very
love.
scary. Okay, please check out our website, our new website, commonmystics.net. Follow us on all the socials at Common Mystics Pod. Like, subscribe, and download. And please, Jennifer, what is our ask?
Share our podcast with your friends. We enjoy watching our numbers grow. Hey, Jill, how many people are following us now? Have we hit
I don't know.
500?
I don't want to look. I don't want to look. It gets my heart swollen.
Okay, we'll look. We'll tell you guys next time.
We love you. Thank you so much for listening.
I love you. Good night.
Bye.
This has been a Common Mystics Media production. Editing done by Yokai Audio, Kalamazoo, Michigan.